off except the center.
Ball start. Everybody but the center. Offense.
That's you with it there.
First down.
Thanks, Walt.
So though football season has come to a close, it's still a good time to look at the false start that the vast majority of golfers make with their putter. Too many players assume that all putters are created equal, which cannot be further from the truth. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at what can happen if you skip the essential fitting components like the length and loft of the putter. The first golfer that we're going to look at is currently using a 34.5-inch putter and is about 6 feet 3 inches tall, and expressed when he looked at his putting stroke on video that he didn't like the excessively crouched posture that he was experiencing. Now, he thought that was from just a mechanical setup error, and I in turn decided to look at it a little bit differently and ask myself, well, is this person trying to accommodate the tool that he's using rather than having the tool work for him? When I asked him what his wrist to floor measurement was, and he said 38 inches, I knew that that was probably going to be the area that we were going to start. So, in a very unorthodox suggestion, I asked him to grab a 38-inch counterbalance putter and just treat it like a normal putter. We would consider the weighting and how the putter feels, etc., at a later date for him. And as we compare the before video on the left here to the after video on the right, you'll see significantly different postures there to dress, simply because we got a putter in his hand that matched his body makeup, and the length was a lot more appropriate. Most people tend to try to grab a putter that looks good off the rack, and when you skip over the length portion, then you find yourself trying to make adjustments to accommodate the putter rather than have it work for you. That in turn for Brian created some face control issues that led to an inability to hold short putts on a consistent basis. So while we're still working towards some of the details on finding a look that's good for him and making sure that the weighting is appropriate, we definitely are in the right ballpark here with the 38-inch putter so that he can stand comfortably, a little bit more of a conventional posture, and control the face a little bit better. Here we have the launch page of a Sam Putt Lab report, and this information is going to give us a bit more insight as to why putter loft is important. We're going to start by looking at this box that highlights the key factors associated with the loft of your putter and the resulting ball roll. First off, we have at the bottom the putter loft. That's the static loft on the putter. In this case here, it's 5 degrees. The top number is the shaft angle for how far back or forward the handle is leaning, or how much loft has been added or taken away from the putter at impact. And then our effective loft or dynamic loft is our putter loft plus or minus the shaft angle at impact there. So you'll see we have a 5-degree lofted putter. Our student has added 2 degrees of loft by the time they get back to impact, and consequently we have 7 degrees of total loft delivered on average when the club strikes the golf ball. You'll see in the bottom right corner here, you'll see the effective loft grouping. For the most part on all 5 of his putts falls between 6 and 8 degrees there. That's a lot of loft to deliver to the golf ball, and the rest of this video will cover why. The putter loft has a huge bearing on that. Right below that you'll see the rise angle of the putter. Again, pretty level through the hitting area. Not ideal. In a perfect world, the rise angle will be greater than the dynamic loft because that produces a ball that launches between 2 and 3 degrees and is going to head out of there with some topspin on it. You'll see, unfortunately for our student here, that not only does he have backspin, but he also has 2 negative signs after that. That is indicative of a lot of backspin, a lot of bounce and skid, given the level angle of attack and an effective loft of 7 degrees. So we look at that and say, all right, is this a stroke problem? Is this a putter fitting problem? And you guessed it, since the title of the video is the false start, it's probably a false start because he's got too much loft on his putter from the get-go. So what we did for Chris here is we moved to his after video, was we put him in a putter at about 2.5 degrees of loft, and we had an ever so brief discussion about 2 things. First, his rise angle, making sure that he felt like he had a little bit of an ascending blow when he was striking the golf ball, followed by making sure that the butt of club was winning the race back to the golf ball, or that the shaft angle wasn't ad loft at any point in his at impact there for him. So if we couple those things together with the putter loft of 2.5 degrees, and then the shaft angle, which was neutral, 0.2 degrees of D-loft, and that gives us our effective loft of 2.3 degrees. That's going to give us a much more friendly predicted launch here, which instead of that 5.5 to 6 range from before, you can see is all the way down to 2 degrees. As we mentioned, perfect world, ball would launch in between 2 and 3 degrees with a rise angle greater than the effective loft. Now, you'll notice his rise angle is only 1 degree, isn't quite as much as his effective loft. Like with any good putting stroke, it's always a work in progress. But I do want to highlight some of the positives from this putter loft and small mechanics discussion that we had. The effective loft numbers, rather than living over here in that 6 to 8 degree territory from before, is now falling a little bit more normal range in between that 2 and 3 window right there. And you also see that the rise angle numbers, instead of them being level in this level and negative in this part of the world here, you can see that that's starting to make some improvement as we move up and a little bit closer towards that gray shaded area there, which is about that tour average window. So a lot of positive progress from Chris by just having a small mechanics discussion, but making sure that that putter loft is going to be at a number that was functional for him. 5 degrees is way too much. I'm finding most of my players end up in that 2 to 3 degree window, with some exceptions on either side of that. So, to recap everything here, we want to make sure that the putter length matches the player appropriately. Definitely check the wrist to floor measurement, because that can have a lot to do with the player's posture and their movement pattern, how they're delivering that putter back to the golf ball. And then secondly, wanted to use this example here from the Sam Putt Lab report to make sure that the putter loft is appropriate so that we can produce better rolls more often. Part of Chris's homework was to find a dew-covered green early one morning, roll a few putts on it, and see how long before the ball entered true roll phase or wasn't skipping or bouncing. He said that he noticed that the rolls were much improved with the putter change here, and he's excited to continue to work on the rise angle side of things. That said, a brief apology to any Philadelphia Eagles fans that would have taken offense to the opening football video, but hopefully got a good chuckle out of it. All right, Preston Combs, Flat Stick Academy.